Hello and welcome back to another episode of Power Rangers Lore. Today we are going to go into the next part of the Power Rangers timeline, still in the main universal timeline, so if you get confused about certain things, we are talking about the main universe, not any of the offshoot universes going on, such as Dino Charge, RPM, the comic line, and a few other movies that have been put out there. Now, we started out last time talking about the ancient history of the Power Rangers, going up to recent history. The last thing we talked about was Madame Odious' plan to form an army to gain control of the legendary Nexus Prism, and that's where we stopped. Well, next thing is the recent history. That basically happens about 1,000 years before Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, give or take a few centuries or so. We're not exactly given the exact timeline until a little bit later, but this is what we know so far. So let's get into it. This is going to be a longer video, so let's not waste some time. Wow. A hell time pun with the timeline. Okay, so the first thing we know of the centuries ago part is Flint, the former enemy of Camille, who she cursed, is turned into an anthropomorphic fly and basically forced to stay in her stomach, or he dies for going outside too long. They battled in some battle at some point, and she turned him into a fly. It's not exactly certain how she did it, other than the fact that she cursed him. The next major point would be Nylok forces attack Japan and are defeated by the Samurai Warriors. Not the Samurai Rangers per se at the same time period, but the Samurai Warriors. They would be known as the ancestors of the current Samurai Rangers. And the Sansu River floods the entire city. Now, we don't exactly sure which city this is. It kind of jumps around a lot where they're exactly at most of the time, but it's just basically the main city that the Rangers are fighting gets flooded, and the water is poisonous to humans and destroys all organic and non-organic matter. Also around the same time, the Red Ranger of the time of the Samurai Warriors creates the Black Box. Now, how they became in contact with the Black Box and the Morphing Grid, we're not exactly certain, other than the fact that they worked on some symbol power, and if it's a form of magic per se, which I would kind of say it is, it's just a runic magic, they access the Morphing Grid through that way. Now, they would basically defeat them, and the Master Xandra would be pushed back at that time period, if it is Master Xandra ruling at that time, but I think it would be. He seems kind of like a long-lasting immortal dude. Now, about 5 of the original samurai families spread across different places, raising families and passing on the legacy to protect the earth and from the Nyloks, from childhood, sometimes from birth, to their descendants having trained as Destiny Rangers or Destiny Samurais, having a life of discipline and sacrificing, trading basically all their lives. For battle, they inherit the techniques, symbol powers, power disc, and generations that are later received. There's Zords. Some of these Zords will be lost over time, but hey, we don't know too much. Now, sometime later in Panorama City, there is interdimensional fissure that the Shiba clan relocates and establishes the Shiba house at. Now, this interdimensional fissure is basically a direct line to where the Sensu River is, and where basically we see all the cracks going. Why it is there, we're not exactly certain. Probably just a lot of pressure going on there. Magical pressure could have been from other repeated battles, or anything else happening in the current time period. It's not fully explained. Now, the prodigy of Zordon, Gosei, creates Robo Knight with a sole mission to protect the Earth's environment and places him in dormant state. Now, where was Gosei before then? We're not exactly certain. He's very a loosely character. I personally don't like him. He's just saying, oh, I was a protege of Zordon. He's kind of just a floating head, but hey, what do I know? Next thing is, we got to see about 16th century, and it talks about Brazil being colonized by the Portuguese. Why is that necessary? Well, in The Man in Mercury, they talk about it, and it's brought up really quickly. Now, we're going to the 18th century. We skip a long, huge time period, and this is where things get very interesting. Now, mind you, there's going to be 2 versions I'm going to tell you right now, because there's a time travel shenanigans. So, original timeline-wise, Kate Walker, the Ranger from Time Force, I believe she is the Yellow Ranger, fell through a time hole and changed history by helping Walter Brown find love, the original inhabitant of the clock tower in Silver Hills. Now, if you don't know who Walter Brown is, he's basically the another West lookalike. He basically haunts the clock tower, and she fell through a time hole. Why is there a time hole there? We don't know. I don't know an exact reason besides a fan theory. That could be it, but I can't tell you the exact reason why. Now, previously before that, he was basically Walter, a cowardly man, 1800, dies unfulfilled and leaves behind his clock tower ghost. So she changed time immediately. Does that create an alternate timeline? No, it's kind of the same timeline. She just fixed it, per se. In 1712, through a power disk, the Bullzord came into our world through symbol power, and it went on a rampage and kind of caused some issues throughout the countryside. The Grand Shogun charges the family with guarding the Bullzord, the first samurai Zord. Now, they basically, by guarding it, they just sealed away and go, don't come out, ever, until later on in the series of Samurai. In 1775, the American colonized Angel Grove is established. Yes, in 1775, 1 year before the Revolution. In 1794, Tommy Oliver's clone, also known as Tom Oliver, which we've done in a video before, created by Rita Repulsa, is sent back in time to basically help Tommy to retrieve the Rangers, and he stays behind in the 18th century as the Green Ranger to protect the inhabitants of Angel Grove, just in case any other threats show up, and basically make sure that the timeline isn't changed. And that is not a alternate timeline. That is main canon storyline there, which is very interesting, pointing out there. And it basically tells you right now, hey, Rita caused Tommy to be born. Now, there's a lot more. We'll get into that later on, exactly how that came to be, but let's get on here. Now, the 19th century. In 1812, thinking of bigger plans, Schrader transforms a human couple of Dayu and Decker. Basically, Decker was dying, and Dayu makes a deal with Schrader. And essentially, he attaches Uramasa, a cursed sword that ran with bloodthirsty battle, basically to Decker's soul, containing his misery and anger. She stays with an instrument that I'm gonna mispronounce really badly, and basically it contains her suffering. The music calms the fury of Master Xander, who basically lives off human suffering altogether. So it's a really good thing there. Now, Decker would not have any memories of this, and Dayu would keep all her memories as she became a Nylok. Now, they're both half Nylok, half human, but Dayu is more Nylok than Decker is. Now, we never see her in her human form in the series, besides in like some memories and some dream states. But that's basically it. I really wish we saw her human form, if she did have it, or they told her basically she no longer had it at all because she stayed too much in the realm of the Nyloks. Now, Decker goes between all the time, and they're he's just bloodthirsty for battle, looking for the ultimate opponent. Now, things would change in 1865 when Katana arrives on Earth, and welcomed by a samurai, learning the battle techniques and becoming the first alien samurai defender of Kyoto. Kidnapped by Grum through the time portal in the year 2025, soon afterwards he returns to his own time, after some shenanigans happening. Now, what is happening? Who is he welcomed by a samurai? Now, I would say it might be one of the Shiba clan or somebody else of one of the other families, basically teaching the techniques. He doesn't teach him any symbol power, but basically saw an honorable battle, and they'd be the only ones who weren't freaked out immediately by essentially a alien coming down. Now, it could be also the same samurai family that has nothing to do with the samurai series, but also the Green Samurai Ranger from Ninja Storm. We're not 100% certain, but it could be, or it could not be entirely. In 1878, Kat Manx basically is born. Now, okay, we have another alternate timeline. So the original timeline in 1880, William, Rocco, Abraham, and Miss Alicia are together in Angel Grove. Now, our new reality will be formed when Kimberly basically falls through another time portal that was basically in her locker. I don't know how that happened. I'm not gonna. And basically, they just explain it just happens sometimes. That's a crap answer. But hey, she ends up basically back in the Wild Wild West and finds that her friends aren't her friends. They are basically just the old copies of herself. Not really old copies, but they're ancestors, per se. Let me rearrange that wording. So basically, they are just the ancestors of all those different characters. William being basically the ancestor of Billy. Rocco being the ancestor of Rocky really original name there. Abraham being the ancestor of Adam, better original name. And basically, Miss Alice is the ancestor of Aisha. Wow, really good name in there, guys. Now then, we also find out at the same time period that the White Stranger, not the White Ranger, you just add 2 more letters and you get the White Stranger, is none other than the ancestor of Tommy Oliver. Now, let's go back to a little thing we got to pull up here. Remember, again, who showed up back in the colonization of 1794, none other than Tom Oliver, which is the clone of Tommy Oliver. He showed up in 1794. About almost 100 years later, here comes the White Stranger of Tommy. Now, he's also noble and protective of the whole group while keeping secret identity away from basically the townsfolk of Angel Grove. I would like to point out the fact that this might be the ancestor, basically Tommy Oliver of the White Stranger, quote unquote, might be none other than the grandson or great-grandson of Tom Oliver. Basically showing like, hey, help from a distance, don't reveal your identity. He's doing the same type of thing, already proven a noble line, and creating what is to be the eventual Tommy Oliver that we know, probably one of the greatest Rangers that basically the fandom has ever known. Now, I don't personally like Tommy a lot, but hey, he's got a legacy of great heroes going on here. Now, basically, what would happen in this episode here, she basically changes all of time and basically returns the power coins, meets Zordon in the past, and explains certain things. And she goes back to her time, leaving her ancestors to the colony of Angel Grove. Now, in 1897, Divatox orders a space base for her brother, General Havoc. Yes, that was needed information that you guys definitely need to know. In the 20th century, we are skipping about 30 or so years to 1923. General David Snarnoff recognizes the possibility of developing a television system as early as this year. His historical memoir said, I believe that television, which is the technical name for seeing it as well as hearing it by radio, will pass in due course. Now, why is this necessary? Because of the episode Lights, Cameras, and Action. They bring it up and they quote the thing. So it's basically a little, hey, this is this kind of same thing that happened for us, happens here. In 1932, the 1930 World Series, which Boom hoped to intercept the radio transmission from, takes place. In 1939, the television is first introduced at the World's Fair. Again, another reference to Lights, Camera, Action. In 1948, Victor Adler, who later became the second Master Org, is born, as well as Richard Evans is also born. In 1951, Elizabeth Evans is born. Wow, a 3-year difference there. Not too bad. Now, this is where everything starts getting more complicated, and we'll be going over here. In 1975 to 1979, there's going to be a list of events. We're just going to start naming off things. The class, several students of the class of 1993 to 1997 of Angel Grove High School are born. We're just going to name off a few. Bulk and Skull are possibly born in Angel Grove. We're not 100% certain, but we do believe so because, well, Bulk and Skulovich, the bandits, are kind of seen later on in the past episodes where essentially you see the Angel, I think the Wild Wild West episodes. I'm not sure if they're in the other episodes of the Colonial one where Tommy goes back, but we're going to skip that. Also around the same time as Rocky being born, Zachary Taylor, Trini, Jason, Adam, Billy. That's kind of it there. Now, this is going to be another issue here. On September 20th, 1979, in Los Angeles, California, is born Thomas Oliver, David's younger brother. He is the descendant of the mysterious White Ranger. As a baby adopted by Mr. and Mrs. Oliver, who are unaware of their brother's existence, the baby celebrates his birthday on October 20th. See? Interesting things. On November 12th, 1979, in Sydney, Australia, Catherine is born. She is a niece of a well-known Australian educator. Aisha is later born, as well as Andrews, Zane, and Carone are also born on KO-35. In 1980, on October 4th, in San Diego, California, I don't know why I almost messed up this name. Tanya Sloan, daughter of archaeologist Gabe Sloan, and Miss Sloan, who apparently she doesn't get a name, but yeah, is born. Now she's in Zeo, Yellow Ranger. Ryan Mitchell is born, eldest son of the firefighter William Mitchell, future captain of Aquabase. Now Ryan is the one that be later kidnapped by none other than Diabolico, after he's basically going to fall to his death. In 1981, three good friends and scientists, Evan Richards, Elizabeth, and Victor Adler, are working together to prove the existence of Animaria. Victor falls in love with Elizabeth, but are shattered when he discovers that she is none other than engaged to Richard Evans, giving her a last name for the longest time, her not having one. The three continue working together, but though Victor's hatred is burning within him like the intensity of a hot sun, and he will basically do anything to take the limelight and the spotlight of the Animaria's project. Cole Evans is later born around the same year. Thank God they're just engaged and not having married yet. I can hear the church bells ringing and demanding that happening. In 1982, T.J. Thompson, Ashley Hammond, Cassie Chan, Carlos Vanera are born. Richard's team in the same year basically travels to the Amazon in search of evidence of Animaris once existed. They find some suspicious-looking seeds, which are remnants of Master Org, but they don't know at the time. Victor kind of figures it out, grabs the seeds, and in personal revenge, after keep listening to the passion and the love between the two characters of Richard and Elizabeth, gets angry and eats them. He's infused with the power of Master Org, and he basically murders them coldly in the middle of the woods. But he's unable to find their baby, who had been brought along. I don't know why they would bring a baby to the Amazon, but hey, they did that. Elizabeth managed to hide him in the last second, just like Thrall is in World of Warcraft, but not carried down like Moses down the river, but basically hidden and found by monkeys. Now, Victor would eventually assume the identity of Master Org and continue his mission to wipe out humanity and take over Earth by recruiting the newly risen Org's spirits to battle the Rangers. But he would take a long time to do so. Basically, I think he was just gathering power and figure out what his whole job was going to be now that he had dealt with the shock of killing the woman he loves and his best friend at the time. Beginning of Dina Mitchell's training at Aquabase Frontline, the future becomes Lightspeed Pink Ranger. 1983, Kaya and Kiona, now I butchered those names, just want you to know, were students of the Wind Ninja Academy. Now, we know this from the full episode if you've seen basically Ninja Storm Power Rangers. Kia is the Earth Style category, and Kion is the Air Style category ninja. The young age, basically two are brothers. Kia is none other than Lothar, who craves power as he begins practicing dark ninja magic. Don't do that dark ninja magic, boys and girls. It can lead down to face masks and space conquest. Though I don't know if the face masks are too bad. Now, basically they come into conflict, especially when a woman named Miko is introduced to the academy and is a mystic samurai pendant, which basically I talked about earlier in the episode. He attempts to steal it, but is stopped by Cam, who had gone back in time at this time period, trying to basically find a new weapon to defeat Lothar, who was about to destroy the Rangers. When this happens, he basically finds out his father had been lying to him, that they had a twin brother, and essentially that whole go back there reveals the whole issue that his none other than twin brother is Lothar, and Lothar is banished from Earth for being basically a douchebag, and is sent into space, basically forever banished from Earth. In space, he learns about his search for power, and essentially Cam leaves at that point. In 1984, Miko dies of an illness, not before making Keon promise to keep Cam out of harm, which causes him going, "You're not going to be a ranger ever," even though Matina had a fight and possibly be one of the better rangers. But wait, what do I know? In 1984, as well, Corone is kidnapped by none other than Darkonda and transformed into Astronema much later. In 1985, Justin Stewart is born. Yay! In 1986, there's a dimensional filled with wonderful magic. But this dark forces come none other than an undead army, none other than Morticon, swarm over the land and basically want to destroy all humanity and as well as conquer all magic and destroy it. Now when all seems hopeless, a band of true and brave wizards come forth and do battle against Earth's insurmountable odds. They mostly all die. The greatest wizard of them all, Lianbo, casts a spell that sends the armies back to the underworld and seals it, along with the Guardian at the time. though it causes him to be pulled down into the underworld as well, where he is corrupted and turned into none other than Korag. At the same time, Claire and Bowen are born right before the battle, the last battle essentially, and are both born in the magical dimension as well too. Now the magical dimension is also connected directly to ours. It's just kind of considered a pocket dimension. It's rather small, so just think on that. And there's a bunch of little pocket dimensions within the magical dimension as well. It gets complicated. Also during 1986, Lauren Sheba is born. She's the firstborn and is immediately thrown into hiding just to make sure that nobody finds out that essentially she is the firstborn, just in case the Nilex show up. She's trained into every art and basically taught how to deal with the Nilex themselves. After a car accident, Bill Mitchell surrendered his son Ryan to Diabolico. Basically, he's forced to watch his son die, or could save his son or possibly see in the future. Diabolico makes a deal with him and goes, "I'm taking your son to the underworld." Yay! Tori Hansen is born later that year. Connor McKnight, Eric McKnight, Ethan James, Kira Ford, and Trent Fernandez Mercer is born. They are part of the Reefside High School of 2004. Power Rangers Dino Charge. No, Dino Thunder. I don't know why I keep on saying Dino Thunder. There's too many Dino Rangers. In 1987 to 1990, Kevin and Mia Wannabe have been born. As descendants of the original samurais, they're basically taught how to fight. Though, I don't think... Mia's brother is not really seen to have taught as well as she was, since she's the head of the family. Kevin is, but he also wants to be a swimmer. Madison Rocco, Xander Bly, Charlie Thorne, Vita Rocco are born around this time period as well. Jaden Sheba is born later on, and he's the second generation. About, let's see here, a year or two, or possibly 3-year difference. Cassie Rhodes, Lily Chilman, Theo Martin, Loon Martin are all born during this time period. In 1992, wow, only 1 year after I was born, Andrew Hartford is given a gift by a foreign government to further archaeological studies. He gave a mummy of a tomb guardian. The mummy is protected by one of the jewels of the Corona Aurora, the pink Esmeralda? Was it pink emerald? I think they spelled this wrong. Okay, whatever. It's one of the Corona Aurora gems, and the box is lined with some metal that cannot be tracked. Basically, can't track the jewel signature. So, they'll had the last gem the entire time. He would not know until much later on. That is what we have up to this day. Until next thing is the present day, which is Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the beginning of Season 1. That is the end of this episode. Thank you guys very much. It took about 23 minutes to go through all of that. Now, if you have any more questions about this, we'll be talking more about other stuff later on. We'll be doing the next video on the present day, but we're going to skip over a lot of the unnecessary information of the episodes. You can watch that yourself. I'm going to talk about certain key issues that have not been talked about in the episodes, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much, guys, again. Have a good one, and may the power protect you always.